die about 15 years ago. Why'd I eat the acid? I don't know. I wasn't thinking and I wasn't scared. Why'd I eat the acid? I wasn't prepared. The last time I did acid, I went insane. And I was hanging out with some friends just getting loaded when all of a sudden my mind exploded. I had a flash that I was gay and I got paranoid. I was sitting on the floor listening to Pink Floyd. The last time I did acid I went insane. And I was drawing crazy pictures, and before I was done, the picture started pulsing like an alien lung. And I said, oh my God, this has just begun. And it was 12 more hours before I was done, and we were up on the rooftop. And I'll tell you the truth, I was convinced I'd already fallen off of the roof. And these weird metal things all around that space, they were teleporting me from place to place. The last time I did acid, I went insane. So we ran back downstairs where it was better to be, but I was trapped in spiral staircase infinity. And when we got to the door, I couldn't go inside, because it was the gates of heaven and I had died. The last time I did acid, I went insane. And this kid named Grimm, he punched a cat in the head. He could read my thoughts, that's what he said. And he described what it was like, but I didn't believe it. Like lifting a rug and seeing stars beneath it. And the first rule of tripping was don't be with people you don't trust. The second rule of LSD, the rooftop is not a good place to be. The third rule is to be prepared. The fourth rule is to not get scared. The fifth rule is to stay serene. Turn off your mind and float downstream. The sixth rule is to have a good friend at hand. The seventh rule, I hope you understand, is not to look too deep into your soul, or you might find a hideous, hopeless hole of hatred, hunger, infinite, idiot, mindless, meaningless, nothingness, nothingness, nothingness. And that's what I did. And then every aspect of life that I selected was instantly and brutally dissected. And I started thinking about the fact that everything that I thought was true was just my own opinion. And I realized that everybody on Earth probably has their own opinions about what is true, and that a lot of them probably don't necessarily line up with my opinion of what's true. And this realization brought on the further realization that perhaps everybody's truths are true for themselves, and you can't run around telling other people that what they think is true is not true just because you think something different is true. But then I realized that I'd stumbled upon a really terrible and horrible paradox of human consciousness and existence, because if what I think is true is that everybody thinks something different is true, and what everybody thinks is true is different from what everybody else thinks is true, then there's 10 million, zillion, trillion different truths. In fact, perhaps there's a different truth for every person that has ever lived and never will live. And I saw all these different truths describing their own internal universes, and there were zillions of them going out in all directions with all these faces of all these people who thought that what they thought was true, and I saw them extending like a vast ocean of faces convinced in their own separate truths, and just millions of them and zillions of them as far as I could see in all directions, and all of them thinking that what they thought was true, and I realized that from this moment onwards the only thing that I could possibly think again for the rest of my life was that everybody thought something different was true, and that was just my own personal truth, and I was just one of those zillions of faces. But I had the real truth. I had the real truth, and they didn't understand. I was just a little drop, a tiny face in this sea of zillions and trillions of faces, and nobody would understand that I had the actual truth. I could see the entire picture of all of the faces and all the truths, and I realized that I had really discovered something, but it was something that was probably at the heart of all human consciousness. Somehow I, at that moment, was at the pinnacle of all human experience and consciousness. And I turned to my friend Robbie and I was like, I've just discovered the meaning of life. I've just discovered the meaning of life. I've just discovered the meaning of life. Listen, Robbie, this is really important. What I think is true is that everybody thinks something different is true, but that is the actual truth. And if you were ever to convince me that something other than that was true, it would only prove that what I thought was true, because what I think is true is that everybody thinks something different is true. And I think maybe it's like moths. Maybe it's like the way moths evolved for hundreds of thousands of years, and they never had light at night. There was no electric light. There wasn't even really flame at night. And as soon as those things existed, they just fly towards it and they die, because they evolved to have this certain response to a factor that wasn't even there for millions of years. And now all of a sudden that factor is there, and they're just going to destroy themselves because they've evolved to go towards this light, but it's really for no reason, and it's just self-destructive. And I think that's the kind of paradox that human consciousness has gotten itself into. We've evolved to go towards a certain thought, and I'm the first person to actually have discovered the technology of that thought, and now I'm destroying my own consciousness with with it. And I think once this thought exists and lets itself out into the world, all humans will destroy their consciousness with it. Why me? Why am I the one that has to destroy all human consciousness? I don't understand why it had to be me. But I guess now the truth is going to be out, and everybody's just going to feel horrible and crappy and not want to do anything with their lives again, because now they understand the real truth. And this was something that I realized, and I in fact realized many other things over the course of the 11 hours that followed that. And I think the one that I walked away with making the most deep impression on me was that I'm probably not the kind of person that should do acid, and I probably shouldn't do it again. But there were many other realizations which I may tell you about some other time.